Thank you all for braving the bad weather coming out. We were waiting, we apologize for the delay. Mr. Morganelli was in a flooded area on Route 22, right?
Very flooded, believe me.
Neither of these two gentlemen to my right really need an introduction, but to my immediate right is John Adams from Berks County. He's the district attorney in Berks County. To his right is John Morganelli, district attorney in Northampton County. To my left is Bob Heimbecker of Altronics, and we have with us Suzanne Beck from Crime Victims Council and Diane Zanetti from Turning Point, both of whose organizations work with victims of domestic violence. And Kim Silvestri, who's the victim witness coordinator from the district attorney's office. And I probably really don't want to do this, but I will anyway because he's an old friend. This is Ron Niemeyer, former sheriff of Lehigh County, former detective in the city of Allentown, and now part of Altronics' team. So thank you all for being here. Bob Heimbecker, as I mentioned, is general manager of Altronics Security Systems in Bethlehem, and working jointly with Bob, I'm pleased to announce that there's a very important and I think terrific program to protect victims of domestic violence in the most serious cases. Bob has recently worked with Kim Silvestri, our victim witness coordinator, and Altronics is donating panic buttons for victims and installing security systems in their homes and places of business, and waiving the usual customary monitoring fee that they would typically charge in those situations. And yeah, I'm very grateful to Altronics for that, because they're providing a very needed service to our most vulnerable victims. And I'm sure that the partnership will be successful, and the victims will have much greater peace of mind as a result of it. And Bob and Altronics are offering the same service to both Northampton County and Berks County to the extent that they need it. It's interesting, timing is, we say sometimes everything in life, and Bob Heimbecker, who incidentally is also a supervisor in Hanover Township, Lehigh County, which really has nothing to do with this other than it's a post he holds. But Bob and I were, I think we were trying to get together for lunch for maybe a year. Not 2 years. And I'll take the blame for not, getting that accomplished much sooner. But a few months ago, we finally got it done and had lunch, and Bob was kind enough to offer the services of Altronics in a number of different areas beneficial to law enforcement, because they work in the monitoring area. There's technology out there that could be useful to law enforcement in a number of different ways. Coincidentally, at that just about the same time, Kim Silvestri came to me about a concern that we had about a particular victim who was especially vulnerable. This woman's former husband was about to be, actually was about to max out on his sentence. He had committed a very violent assault on this woman a number of years earlier, had made death threats to her along the way while he was incarcerated. And everybody connected with the case, Kim and Tanya Tharp, who is the domestic violence prosecutor in my office, along with Ned Muir, were all convinced that this woman was potentially going to be the victim of another very serious assault, if not a homicide, at this man's hands. And we were concerned about how we could offer her more protection. We had talked to the police department in the jurisdiction in which she lives. They were agreeable to providing extra patrols in her neighborhood, but she works in an area where she leaves home early in the morning, opens a business early in the morning, and was going to be vulnerable in many respects. So as a result of that, I called Bob and introduced Bob and Kim Silvestri, and between the two of them, that woman now has protection with an Altronics security system and a pendant that she can wear around her neck and summon the police with the push of a button, and summon help through Altronics with a push of a button. And Bob's going to demonstrate that equipment for you in a moment. that's how this came about. And as I said, it resulted really from an enjoyable lunch, which I paid for, by the way. But I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to have done it, and it's a very useful and nice relationship. And, yeah, that installation, that woman's home took place just within the last 3 weeks or so. The system is, at least for our purposes, is going to be called MVP, Maximum Victim Protection. And it can be tailored to meet the individual needs of the people who need it. The system and the equipment itself has a value. If we were going to purchase it, it would be about $300 to $500 at a shot, and Altronics is graciously donating that and providing panic buttons. So we appreciate it, Bob. Thank you very much. I want to emphasize that we've had this discussion because obviously with the expense involved here, we can't do this for every victim. And there are frankly some victims who are far less vulnerable than others. And not every victim will be eligible for this system. We will vet the cases on a case-by-case basis in this office. We'll assess the risks. Victims have to be, in our judgment, in imminent danger of harm. They also have to have a protection from abuse order issued by the court, and they have to agree to participate and to cooperate in the course of the prosecution of their assailant. These are very difficult cases, and they're about almost 4% of the cases that come through Lehigh County Criminal Court, adult court, in a given year of domestic violence. And just to give you some idea, in 2014, there were 1,033 domestic violence cases, which is up from 963 in 2013. So there are a lot of victims out there who are subject to this kind of threat, and obviously we can't supply all of them with panic buttons and alarms. Not all of them need them, but for those who we feel are in the most vulnerable situation, we're going to be able to do that, and that's a great public service. So thank you to Bob Heinbecker and Altronics. Thank you to Kim Silvestri of my office and Tanya Tharp for getting this set up. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Bob and let him demonstrate the system for you. Thank you, sir.
Jim, appreciate it. Good afternoon. We had the pleasure at Altronics of supplying the Maximum Victim Protection Program, which consists of a base station that goes in the home or the business, and it has a pendant or a belt clip model panic button. And this panic button has a range of about 5 acres. So if this is in your kitchen or in the victim's kitchen, and they're out mowing the grass and they're out in the far corner, with most homes, this is going to reach the base station. When the blue button is pressed, it initiates a call to my central station. The central station is a UL 2050 facility, and within seconds, call goes out to the police department. So we get the call started right away. Then the operator calls the number that this comes in on and can actually talk.
Out of range.
The victim can actually talk to the central station operator. So the hope is that if we have a perpetrator there confronting a victim, that they'll be warded off by knowing that they're being recorded in a UL central station, and that the person, that they're, she argues with me a lot, and that the person that we're protecting is never alone. And that's probably one of the greatest things that I think we as a society can help victims with, is make them feel like somebody's with them all the time. So we're very happy to be with you, and I hope you gentlemen will avail yourself of the system too. We'd love to have you on board. We have a championship system, and these 3 counties have been very good to Altronics over the years, in the past 55 years, so we like to be able to give back. So in some small measure, if this helps just one person, we're real happy. I hope it's like insurance and we never use it, but it's nice to know you have it. In the length of time, you mentioned technology, in the length of time that we rolled this out, Maximum Victim Program is going to get a big brother called Help.me. Help.me has GPS locating in it. So if we had somebody that was in really bad shape, we could put one of these on them and we would know where they are all the time. Okay? Definite boon to law enforcement, and we're hoping that this spins off into special agents or people that we need to know where they are when they're out doing things in the law enforcement field.
Just don't give my wife any of those.
I've already set her up.
I know when to shut
go,
up.
Rob. And you
So-
better, I think.
Thank you to Jim for
Hey,
finding an
Rob.
application, and thank you to Jim. It's a pleasure being here today.
Thank you, Bob. John Adams, would you like to say anything?
Well, I'd like to say thank you for your generosity, and I hope that I don't have to utilize these services, but we're all well aware that in unfortunate situations, the victims are seriously, their safety is jeopardized, and I can only, we will take advantage of this in those situations where it's appropriate, and again, I thank you and your company for their generosity to include our county and our potential victims with this program. Thank you.
Thank you, John, appreciate it.
John Morganelli?
Just want to also add to thank DA Jim Martin for inviting us to this press conference, and of course Altronics for this service that's going to be provided, and we look forward to working out the details, with your company. And I'd just like to add a final point here. This is really another example of the private sector helping us out in the public sector. And over the years, when we've worked on issues, particularly with domestic violence, I know Suzanne and I go back a long time, worked on some issues where we had private donations, unions and others who came and put victim witness rooms in the courthouse. And those things really help us because we all have limited resources. And this program is really, I think, going to be important. And we will develop protocol internally, as Jim indicated, to look at the criteria for what kind of referrals we would make to keep them at a minimum. We recognize that this isn't for everybody, but in those extreme cases. So thank you very much for including Northampton County.
Well, MVP will name it most valuable prosecutor.
Thank you.
Who are you gonna give that to first?
I have lots of them. I like Fritos, we'll make more.
Suzanne, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I would.
This is Suzanne Beck from Crime Victims Council. You can come up here if you'd like.
Thank you. For most people, sexual violence is overwhelming and traumatic. And while every victim's experience is different, feeling safe is a crucial part of the recovery process for so many survivors. It's important to note that rapes and sexual assaults, 4 out of 5 of those occur between people who know each other, which can leave an emotional, enormous toll on a victim's sense of safety. So this is why we are so very grateful for the generosity of Altronics and for all that this program will do for the safety and recovery of victims of violence in our community. So I want to thank you so very much on behalf of victims.
Our pleasure,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Diane? Diane Zanetti from Turning Point.
Thank you. What every one of us knows is that safety is a quality of life issue. And there's nothing probably more disheartening to a victim to make a choice to leave an abusive situation to gain safety, only to find out that that's not been accomplished. What this program does, however, is add another layer of assurance for those who live with that pervasive fear and that constant threat of potential harm and even lethality. What this also does, I think, is let the victim know that we get it, that we understand what that level of fear is like and what it takes out of their ability to live their lives. So what Altronics is doing and what Kim has made possible and the DA's office has made possible, I think, is a way of saying that living with that kind of fear is unacceptable to us. That is no way for anyone to live their lives. So I want to thank all of you for that, for those victims who need that added level of assurance. What it also says, I think, is that victims understand they have additional allies in their struggle to remain safe, but most importantly, I think there's an increased sense on the part of the victim knowing that help is closer than they ever imagined it could be before, and that is huge for victims and their families who are constantly living with that level of fear and threat to their life and well-being. So thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Really appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Kim.
Kimberly, would you like to say anything?
Sure. I just wanted to say thank you again to Bob. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm really looking forward to this partnership and to helping victims. And watching the installation that we did the other day, watching the victim just be able to speak to someone almost immediately, and just the sense of, security, and she relaxed, and she just felt safe in her home. She's taken other measures to feel safer at home, but to be able to talk to someone like that and stay on the line with them, on the button with them, because you talk into the button, which I think is fantastic, while the police are on the way, it's just priceless. So, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to serve.
Thank you all. Are there any questions?
Will there be an allotment for like each county? Is there like a maximum number of cases or situations that you're offering initially?
No,
Okay.
no, we're not going to put a lid on it. I think the DAs here will come up with what the criteria should be, and then it will be up to us to cooperate with that. No, there'll be no lid.
And I don't know that anybody has said this, but these cases don't last forever. There's maybe not a definite time period that you can say, well, we're gonna give this victim one of these systems for 30 days. We don't want to do that. But there's a point in time when the threat and the vulnerability evaporates to some extent, and therefore we're not talking about a lifetime commitment.
But let's just say that as long as the threat remains, Altronics are going to be there for them, okay? Just keep up.
May I also add something that you mentioned recently, Bob, that you can also give out other key fobs to other members of the family. So if you have a child who's getting home earlier from school than the parent gets home.
As you had mentioned, there isn't any, when somebody decides to threaten somebody, sometimes going after the child is even a bigger threat to a mom. It's a bigger target to a mom than themselves. A mom will throw themselves in front of a bus for their child. So I think it's important that if mom is concerned about the child and you justify the need, then we will equip the family. Each one of these units, this one or the new one, will support 4 separate buttons. So the kid will be protected, yes.
Anything else? I do want to pay special thanks to Kim Silvestri. She really, worked hard on this and got it done with Bob's help. So thank you, Kim.
That's one of those hard. She's got a job that's hard to like, and she loves what she does. She's really good at it.
It's a job it's hard to like, not a boss.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Bob, and thank you, Altronics. Thank you, Ronnie, for being here. Art. Thank you all.
Ron and John, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, absolutely.
Thank you, not the details.
Diane, what's your last name?
Zanetti.
Z as in
Yeah,
zebra?
absolutely. Send me